What's going on? What's up? What's
Hey,
going on,
hey,
brother? That brother fresh. That brother jumped in there and gave it a quick. Good to see you, brother. What is going on with you? I see.
hey,
I
man.
see you. If nobody
I'm
else,
good.
if nobody else said they saw you, I see you.
Yeah, that's what it was, huh? That's what it was.
Yeah, yeah,
All
absolutely,
right.
guys. What's going on? This community beacon, Michael Seville. I'm in a extremely high frequency today. So I'm excited about the conversations that we'll have that will take place in this show. Of course, I'm Michael Seville. I'm here in Palm Beach County,
A
North
real
County.
estate king, business mogul.
Uh,
That's him
ah,
right there.
ah.
Burr, 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 burr.
Shouts out to all everyone. So I appreciate it. Of course, on the other side of the screen, you got my brother from another mother, the incomparable. I always say that, but it's true. Mr. Joel Simmons. I think it looked like he giving you a quick preview of the house, real quick. He showed you what he working with.
Ah, there it is. It's almost there.
Yeah, yeah, awesome, brother. So, man, here we go. Let's get into it, guys. It's Friday. You'll probably be seeing this at around 6:30. Although I keep saying, especially if we get to this time, we might as well just go live
Live it on
because
up.
because I'm gonna tell you what. At this point in time, we are not editing this footage, so you get what you can get. The only thing good about this now is that we can pause mid-recording and restart it. So sometimes that will happen if we have some type of difficulties. But other than that, you are getting it live and you're seeing the conversation happen as we come to it. So we definitely appreciate you all for checking in each and every Friday. Leave your comments, leave your engage with us, like, subscribe, depending on whatever platform you're viewing this on, because we definitely do appreciate the engagement. It's definitely allows us to continue to talk. So
We just like talking with y'all. Y'all
uh,
gotta engage more. I'm gonna put it the other way. Like, let's go. Let's get in on this thing. We're
I,
ready. We're ready.
I have a thought sometimes that you know this is in the web. This is on these internets, so to speak.
Wow. Which
So
one?
the internets, the
Okay.
internets. This stuff is on the internets, and it's in perpetuity, as far as I know, until YouTube and Facebook decide to start charging to keep our data. So maybe listen, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30, 35 years down the line, it'll at that point we'll probably be really transitioned over to those LLMs,
Well,
the
I tell you
chat
what.
GPTs, etc. So I think it's going to be interesting at that point to see some comments and man, what them brothers was still eating sugar.
Gosh,
Them
I don't
brothers
even
was
know what that means. And
them
I'm
brothers.
supposed to be the oldest one. This guy over here, he pulling out some. I don't know where that came
Uh,
from. Eating
here- here-
sugar,
here's the thing is that
sweet tooth.
in about 70 years, and probably less than that, at the rate that we're going, everyone's going to realize how addictive processed sugar was, like the types of foods that we eat, etc. I think it's going to come to a head at some point in time, and we're going to realize how we made food an idol, and I can really get into that because over the last couple of weeks I realized that I call it poverty food, but really a lot of the foods that we eat were um, developed during slavery times. And so that's the reason why we season our food like that because you were getting the leftovers and throwaways. So in order to keep it, in order to allow it to last for long periods of time, in order for it to be somewhat edible, we use the spices, and we overuse the spices because there was a need for it. And now we've gotten into the point where food has become our idol so much that we started to glorify a lot of these different things that it is that we're eating. And don't get me wrong, and it really magnifies our relationship to food. And if once you become aware of it and you notice, like, man, I eat to celebrate. I eat when I'm upset. I eat when I eat when I can't get things off of my plate. It's just a constantly eating, eating, eating. So at some point in time, and even knowing the information, we continue to eat the wrong things, because of our relationship to it. It's become so ingrained in our culture. And I think at some point in time, we're gonna notice it. I notice it now. I notice, we just got to look at the weight that people are carrying now, the obesity, etc., and it's all in relation to what it is that we're eating, and we're trading. And it used to be a time when these things were cheap. It's not even cheap anymore. So we continue to spend the money on it, even though we know it's not good for us, and we're willing to uh, pay for it at a premium. Yeah, guys. We can get in depth. We can. I can get. I can really get in depth in the conversation of what we're doing with food now, and for that matter, any idols. Because what that allows us to do is that, when any of these resources or these tools become so ingrained within us to where we're willing to pay the premium for it, and once again idolize these different things. So that it could be food, it could be money, it could be people, it could be places, things, etc. um it would behoove us to say, well, what exactly is this doing for us, and how much energy are we expending on these different things. I was talking with someone the other day, and just to continue to further my point, I was like, how much time do we spend thinking about what we're eating, preparing what we're eating, and then ultimately eating it? So, like, putting all these logistics together. And I could easily say that for breakfast and lunch, for the average person, we're easily taking up at least an hour, hour and a half, just trying to figure these things out. And then that doesn't, and I'm not even including the money aspect of it, but just the time it's taken to prepare us. uh, you know I've seen people who thought about what they were eating for 30, 45 minutes before they even decided what it was that they were going to eat, as opposed to just grabbing something. Um, but unfortunately, instead of eating to live, we've decided to live to eat. And anyone can, I'm not passing judgment. I'm just making an observation. I mean, oh, all right, I'm gonna stop there. I was, I was stop.
Mm.
We were getting on the topic of procrastination. Well,
Oh man,
that was I'm gonna tell you about it. Let me tell you, because going back to the comfort and convenience of things, and just being in the same place. Because the brother, before we got on, the brother said, I don't know how we got into the conversation of procrastination, and I said, yep, I can't lie, I've been doing that lately on a couple of things. And what I replace certain things is, I do things that don't necessarily move the I'm not as efficient as I can be. let's I want to be absolutely clear, is that being a high performer, that's what I would consider myself. There are times when I could be doing more things to move the needle, like doing the things that are at the top of the urgent. Well, I wouldn't even call them urgency. I can do certain functions or perform certain tasks that would definitely move my needle forward, and I procrastinate on them. So, Mike, why are you procrastinating? I'm glad you asked, brother. Um, it's because of I've boiled it down to a couple of things.
I
The,
could have asked you that question, Mike.
I know, but I was doing the job for you.
Go right ahead.
I'm a, I'm a, I'm gonna boil it down, and it's simple. I mean, life is so simple to me these days. the avoidance of
Gosh, he's taking the jacket off, y'all.
yeah, I
He's
got to. I
taking the
got to.
jacket
I'm
off.
warming up.
He told you
I'm
that he was fired up, and there's no
I'm
lie. I mean,
warming.
the man got hot over there.
I'm
Smoke's
warming up
coming
right now.
out of
I'm,
the hat right now.
I'm warming up for you guys. I'm taking it. There, anytime they have like a rap battle, they have like these little and talented brothers that do like these rap battles, live. Shouts out to anyone that used to watch Smack DVDs and even up until now. These talented brothers. I mean, the wordplay. These guys should have been college professors for language arts. The way that they put these words and things together. Like honestly, they put Shakespeare to shame, 1000%. But I said that to say this: anytime during the rap battle they take this shirt off, that means that they really about to get into it. Like it's really about to go down. So procrastination for me, and I think everyone should really kind of look at themselves. I'm always preaching awareness of oneself. So for me, the procrastination comes through from avoidance, a lot of avoidance. It's avoidance, and it's also overwhelm. And so it's overwhelmed. So when I speak of overwhelm, there's just a bunch of things. A lot of these things, and they're all created in my mind, but they're all showing up at the same time. Overwhelm, and then the other part is like fear, avoidance. So it's like a comfort thing. I don't want to step. I don't want to do this because of for fear of. And I said that I thought it the other day. I didn't even want to say it because I remember how stupid it sounded, but it was like fear of success. You know what I mean? And the fear of success, and this is a codependency thing, because the success is not it's not the actual fear that of what success is to me. It's mostly fear of leaving people behind, leaving people or things or places behind. So I'm a recovering codependent for those of you who don't know. So it's like you want to take everybody and everything kind of with you into this new part of your life. However, people are allowed to have their own choices and journeys. That's part of understanding it. And so, but however, it does take mental energy for me to kind of sit back and allow that to happen. So anytime I'm facing or what I see when I become aware of procrastination, 99% of the time, those things are happening. It's overwhelm. So for overwhelm, how I simply deal with that is I can do it in my mind or do it on paper. But for most people, just write these things down. Write the stuff down. Figure out what's the priorities. Then figure out now we got so many tools like chat, this open AI, chat GPT. We spoke about the LLM models. So it's like the you can write all these things down and then you can start to figure out not who what needs to be done, but who can do it, or now it's like what can do it, because you don't have to do all these different things, and you can simply focus on the things that are going to move the needle in that regards, and you can say, okay, this is what's going to be the most efficient, and maybe I'm in the space to do these things and do them more efficiently. So it's really about just figuring out that and figuring out the how to prioritize on the overwhelm side. That's easy. The other side is more so of a emotional side. That emotional understanding the balance of what this codependency spectrum looks like. What's having healthy relationships works on that side. At this for So dealing with that side is a little less tangible and a little bit more mental and emotional. Although we can break that down as well.
That
It's a lot.
was a lot.
It's a lot.
Man, you went from food to procrastination.
Food is an
And
easy way to avoid things, brother. I'm telling you. Look how many times
I
we say
mean, even and you weren't even eating food. And we
I
avoided the conversation of procrastination by talking about food.
I don't. I think it's all together. I think it all goes together. I think the
Mm.
food is just a part. It's all because we got to wonder. We have to become aware of what things we do to avoid certain things. So I've seen people who needed to sit down for 30, and it probably would take most people 30 to 45 minutes at the to get certain things done. You know, if it's really just you doing it as opposed to doing it with someone collaborative wise. And it's, oh, let's order a pizza. Let's in the middle of you, when you just start to get rolling with your momentum, you're like, I wonder if I need to go make a sandwich. I need to, like, food is something that we can use, and that was a relationship part. But
Mm,
I think it's all relative.
I suppose so. I think that relative, I think that things relate so much. One thing relates to another thing. I appreciate the whole conversation about procrastination and those points that you was making, about being overwhelmed or, the fear of those types of things. I definitely get that. Um, Procrastination, you know, procrastination just by definition, right? Procrastination by definition is is not doing the things that you needed to do, or something that it's a something that you felt like you needed to do, putting it off or delaying it, instead of doing it right away. And I mean, I guess Mike, is like, when I think about procrastination, I kind of sit a little bit differently with procrastination now than I once did before. Like before, man, I used to sit with procrastination like, gosh, man, I'm just procrastinating. I'm not doing the thing that I need to do. And I think, and I've shared with you the experience that I had, where I uh, I had planned to do so many things with my family. Oh man, my wife's going out of town. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to take advantage of it. I'm going to be with my kids. We're going to do ABC. It's going to be like that. Clear my schedule. I can't do anything. I ended up with one other thing on my schedule besides that. Then the morning of that day showed up, and when it showed up, I greeted the morning. And what happens? My daughter. Oh, Dad, I gotta study. I'm going out. I'm going to go study somewhere else. Then my son. I'm going out with Gammy. I'm like, what? What just happened here? Everybody's gone. So the thought process is my whole house just became clear. Just me and my dog. Okay, I'm gonna get stuff done. It's on today. I'm gonna
Amen.
get stuff done. And as soon as the last person went out the door, I went to the one little appointment that I had, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. The day that that happened, I called it depression.
Okay.
And it dropped on me. I told this story before, and I came home. And when I came home, I went from energy to do everything to laying on the couch and doing nothing. Later, what I began to understand was I felt like this was God separating me from all other things so that I could focus on what He had planned for me. And so now, when I'm thinking about procrastination, I'm thinking, in that day, there was like some sort of avoidance to do everything. And then there was like this overwhelming feeling to not do something. And then I realized, after I had this conversation with God, everything flowed into me. And I got up, I washed the dishes, I cleaned the kitchen, you know. And I told you about the story. I was on the telephone, with my pastor, and we're working through this scenario in my mind, verbally, out loud. And meanwhile, I get energy. So I get up, I wash dishes, I clean the counter, I take my dog outside. He was looking at me like, what are you gonna do? Sit there forever? I take him outside. I come back inside. I put my gear on to go work out. I go to the store, buy me some new earbuds. These are the same ones that I bought. I buy some new earbuds. Then I go to the gym. I'm pumping. I'm lifting. I'm doing all this work. Then I go to church service and I have say my prayers. All of a sudden, I became an individual who you would have never thought was in that situation ahead of time. And so I think that sometimes, not all the time, sometimes I believe that there's a chance we could be being lazy, resorting to, I like to get into that. We could be being lazy or resorting to just allowing our body to control our mind instead of our mind controlling our body. Sometimes we can get to the point where we are so overwhelmed that we just can't see beyond what it is that's overwhelming us. So we lose focus on the thing that we need to do because our brain is so scattered at looking at so many different things that need to be done that we just kind of get lost. That's when that overwhelming feeling comes in. We just get lost in all of the things that we feel we need to do. Priority list definitely helps. And then sometimes maybe God is just trying to say, hey, listen, slow down and come talk with me. We haven't spoken in a while. I got a scripture for you. I want to hear what you got to say.
I think oftentimes this is my personal opinion on it, is we put stuff off on God a lot. And I think God is like, what are you talking about? And I say that because most of us that are in alignment are constantly having these conversations back and forth. So most of it is, and is more so of not listening the first time. So sometimes it is a pause, and I we the old timers used to call it lazy. But more oftentimes when they called us lazy, it was just because we weren't moving at the speed they thought that we should move at, right? But for us to call ourselves lazy would negate the feelings or the things that are coming up for us. So for you, because you're not lazy, you know what I mean? Like this is just me personally knowing who you are and the and your character, excuse me. So me understanding your character. And so anytime we start to push it because your body's telling you to slow down for a reason, not because you are known to being lazy. This is not a new neural pathway that or new habit you're attempting to form. This is the normal you. So when your body tells you to stop, especially a high performing person like yourself, I would listen because a lot of these things are exactly what we need. Now, there's when I speak of alignment, there are several things. That's why I love this movie. There's a movie called The Three Body Problem on Netflix.
Oh, that's the newest thing.
Yeah,
You're the second person I
it's
heard
one
talking about that.
it's awesome, and I don't really get caught up in the content of it, although it is a good has a I think the storyline is nice. I'm thinking about the structure of it. So a lot of our structure does have to do with mentally, spiritually, physically, the alignment of that. And anytime any of these things tend to be off, it screams out to us. And one of the hard, probably the hardest for most people. I don't know about you, but for I would imagine one of one of the hardest things physically is probably the easiest because if you had done work or didn't, and then you can kind of go back and look at, okay, what am I eating, nutrition, what's going on with my body, did I hurt myself, am I, do I, that kind of, like, that's the easiest for us to figure out. Anybody who's out there working in the sun on the roof is what I call it. You're doing heavy labor, you're physically tired. um then the mental tired is tough for most people because we don't recognize it. Once again, awareness of one's understanding themselves. Because I think one of the hardest things to do is to be a driver. And I've been doing a lot of driving lately. And I've noticed that after I've come in from the road, I'm tired, like mentally. And I hadn't really done anything physically all day, nothing physically taxing. But I'm just like, man, I could just lay down
Mm,
and kind of take it in. And then you have the spiritual side of it, the spiritual alignment, which is like, when was the last time you spoke to God? You know, when was the last time you listened to
mm.
God or heard what was being told? And these things are happening at all points in times. So the late I would pause, or I would kind of get to the lazy part. However, everything that you spoke about is, because we what we're understanding is that the procrastination is the byproduct of something. That I think we would both agree on that, because that's kind of what we're pointing at. The procrastination is the byproduct of something. And oftentimes I think it could be what it could be a multitude of things, but it definitely is a byproduct. But I'm wanting to hear that scripture you got, brother.
Yeah. And laziness is just by definition is just the unwillingness to exert energy. That's it. By definition, whether that's accurate to the scope of our discussion or not, eh, just is what it is, you know? Like sometimes and I guess that's the reason why our parents, and sometimes maybe why we have said it, because I'm not going to sit there and say, "Nah, man, that joker lazy. He just don't want to get up. Yeah, I'm gonna get him." Man. Sometimes, especially with your kids, you
Yeah,
know it. You
yeah,
know it. You
yeah,
looking
yeah.
at your kid, and he's sitting there with a chip hanging out his mouth, you were like, "I told you get the trash," and he look at you like, you can't you see I
Hey,
got this Lay's potato chip in my mouth and I'm sitting on this. Oh, and I'm just like, and he's like, he doing one of these numbers right here, looking at you, and you like, man, if you don't, I'm gonna rip my skin off and come
what
out at you
what
like you ain't like Carnage from
what is
Spider-Man.
it? But there, I love it. Shouts out to Jonah. Jonah, when you watching this later on and you're 20, don't slap the old man in the back of the head for me.
All of that ain't about you, Jonah. Just maybe
Jonah,
yeah.
Jonah, don't slap
I
the old
had
man.
3 kids.
Don't don't slap the old man in the head. But for whatever reason, when you said taking out the garbage and chip hanging out, my mind went to Jonah. Shouts out to Jonah
Gosh. Yeah, 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 yeah. J Man, my man. That's my
though.
dude. Don't watch
It's
this right now because we can't be friends as dad and son.
that
So you
man.
watch this
Hey,
5 years
speak
later,
on
then
it.
you can be like, all right, we cool now. All right.
Speak on it. Speak on it. That we got to just draw the distinction between friend and father and son. We got plenty of time to be friend. God allows it, but right now we in this father son
Later.
relationship,
That's right.
and let's keep it that way. You know what I mean? I can't do it. So procrastination, the laziness is also for us to judge someone else based on what we have going on or where we're at with the information that we have would be we can always have a little bit more compassion in regards to that. And I know you definitely show that. And we're all growing, right? We're all growing
Growing. I like that. I
we're
like that.
all growing.
Active.
So
Active tense.
it's indicative, these things that and a lot of this stuff is built up in our minds. And I'm going to speak in regards to procrastination. For me, the avoidance of this thing, because I expect it to be hard, right? like
Mm,
like like I have built up this perception in my mind that this thing, no matter what it is, right? It could be something as simple as like cleaning up, say cleaning up the bathroom or something. We've built something up in our mind that's stating that it's going, we're going to be exerting this amount of, and I just don't got it in me. I don't like, so however we're talking, we're having these conversations in our mind, like what it is. In what you called, man, I said depression one day the other day, and I had to change it because he said, the brother asked me depressed because I stopped eating sugar, right? Like really cut back on it. And it is a drug. And so I was having this what I had defined as depression, which is, less, clinical depression, and that like we really gotta, deserves a diagnosis. However, you kind of know where you're at, but a lot of it was lack of energy. It was just very, I had low energy and agitation. That's what was going on. But I defined it as depression. And then the brother, who I love to death, shouts out to Chris, was like, he repeated it to me. He's like, depression? And I said, low energy, agitation, and frustration because of this thing. And I think during that time, for you to become aware of it, because what happens is a lot of us aren't aware of these symptoms that we're having. Um, because what happens is when we start to avoid these things, we're actually putting more energy into it, and it starts to show up in different kinds of ways, whatever it is. So we can say we're going to have this very productive day, and because I've pushed it to the side, this thing that I need to take care of, which sometimes has, you ever woke up in the middle of the night and was just like, Jesus, I gotta get that
Mm.
thing done, whatever it is, like 1 o'clock in the morning, and then all of a sudden you spend 30 minutes attempting to get back to sleep, but this thing is on your mind.
Weighing on you.
It's weighing on you because it's like you keep pushing it and pushing it. Now, what I end up doing is I end up doing it anyways, which takes discipline and willpower. And whenever I start to exert discipline and willpower, and I use it more as a um when I start to use willpower and discipline as a strategy versus as just a tool, when it starts to become my strategy, in about 3 months I'm going to crash. Because what happens is that I'm using discipline and willpower for lack of, and you describe it as your conversation with God, and I'm going to describe it as clarity. So without I'm going to use discipline and willpower without gaining clarity on what exactly it is that I'm dealing with. And the reason as to why I'm procrastination. If I'm still saying that procrastination is a byproduct of something else. Once again, whether it's avoidance, whether it's uh
Overwhelming.
overwhelm, clarity, lack of vision, um you know those things, that's when this comes up, and then that's when this laziness thing may start to peek its head, because now it's like, did you get a good night's sleep last night? Yeah, I got a good night's sleep last night. Shoot, I slept more than I've slept before. I got in my however many hours, 6 to 8 hours, whatever it is that you need, and I'm still coming out here, and I'm intending on being productive. But then I do some busy things, and then I'm just, man, I'm just gonna call it a day.
Mm.
And so, and then you look back on it, and you're like, man, what did I actually
What is
do to,
going on?
what did I do?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, go ahead, brother.
Yeah, I like that. I like that we kind of dove into depression a little bit, and you start mentioning something else. I mean, like these words. One of our episodes before was words matter, and you came up with that
Absolutely.
topic, that theme, and it means so much. Like, so I want to get to this scripture, but I got to go right here to this depression. When you mentioned it, it rung something in my mind. So, like, here's one definition of depression: the feelings of severe despondency and dejection. All right. So, despondency and dejection. And what in that in that sense, when that sits on you so long, it creeps in to self-doubt. This may be the clinical personification of depression, right? The clinical piece. However, depression is also the action of lowering something or pressing something down. Ooh, all right. So, what we're talking about are two different things. One of them is like a feeling of feelings. And I think that that's interesting. Depression, the feeling of severe despondency, a feeling, and dejection, a feeling. I mean, how do I even know I've been dejected? I don't know. I feel like I have been. So it's a feeling of a feeling.
Yeah.
So in the clinical sense, that listen, y'all out there with this clinical depression, it is what it is. Don't get upset with me. I was identified as clinically being depressed at a younger age. And so a lot of times what I will do and what I have done up until, you know, that last incident when I just explained, and I said, hold on, this can't be depression. It's got to be something else
Mm.
because everything was going right. And then all of a sudden, I get this feeling. And so my association of the lowering of something, the pressing down of something, hence my body becoming low energy. Now, the definition of laziness is to be be low in energy or undesiring to perform work. It's that lowering. Oh, hold on. So now I understand how laziness can come in to me possibly being a procrastinator, but it doesn't mean I'm a procrastinator. It means I'm lazy. But then if me being lazy is just simply me not feeling as if I need to exert myself in doing something, and then is it really me being lazy, or is there something else I need to do? And my soul, my spirit, my conscious, it knows I need to do ABC, but I'm still focused on XYZ. And I love what you said, brother. You said, if I force myself, willpower, if I exert this willpower, I know I can discipline myself to do the thing that I don't want to do when I want to do it. Then 3 months later, I could find a shutdown or what we claim to be burnout.
Right.
You know, I can, that's it. There ain't no oil in this tank. There ain't no gas in this tank. I
We spoke about that.
made my car go when it could not. I made it. And now it's stuck on the side of the road. Yeah, I'm depressed. Yes, I am.
Uh-huh.
Because I've lowered my speed. I was moving at 95 miles per hour, and now I've lowered my speed. And now I'm pressed to only travel at 2 to 5. And now I have to exert even more willpower and more energy for me to get up to the speed that I physically am unable to obtain
Mm.
because 4 wheels beats 2 heels. So this whole thing is like, it's like breaking down. All right. So now this depression that I recognize, and I love the way Chris said it. Shout out to Chris Seville. Love that dude. So this depression, when I'm in that moment, it's like my sensors, my antenna is going up because it's saying, hey, Joe, you remember this. Remember
Hmm.
how you was feeling like and feeling like and feeling like, and
Yep.
my inner man, the old guy, the guy that I used to be, is talking to the guy that I am today and saying, you thought you got rid of me.
Mm.
Hello, I'm back. Yeah, you remember me? I used to live at dot 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 dot. And my current man is like, oh yeah, I remember you. What's up? And my old man's like, yo, man, you depressed. Like, gosh, you know what? No, I'm not. Oh yeah, but remember dot 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 dot. You're like, yeah. How'd you feel? Oh, yeah, I did feel like that. Oh man, I think I am depressed. And remember when you dot dot dot? Oh yeah, I did feel like that. I'm depressed. And remember when you dot dot dot? Oh yes, I did feel like that. I'm depressed. And meanwhile, physically, I'm going back in memory lane because time is infinite.
Hmm.
And all I'm doing is looping myself back around a point in time where I didn't understand how to control my feelings and I didn't know how to work through it. So my depression, clinical depression, shows up. But there was an issue there. The new me was here. And the new me was so confident that the new me said, hold on, man, why are you depressed? I don't know, really. I ain't got no reason to be depressed. Well, then maybe you aren't depressed. But why can't I do the things that I said I was going to do? I don't know. Why don't you go ahead and write out a list? Why don't you start checking the boxes? See if you can figure out what you should be doing, what you haven't done. And as I'm going through this conversation inside of my mind, it hits me. There's something that's bothering me that has finally made itself to the surface, and I need to deal with it,
Hmm.
period. It's like you can only look at the signal in the car that says a new battery or says oil change or says fuel is low for so long before it's going to rise to a level that you must deal with it now. I don't care what you got on your plate. You could need to go see the president, but you got to deal with it now. And sometimes, and for the guys out there, just a quick side quest for the guys out there who's out there dealing with their ladies, and you like, nah, we ain't gonna deal with that now. And your lady's getting upset, and you're like, nah, I'm not gonna deal with that now. Just chill out. Just chill out. It ain't that big of a deal. We're not gonna and you're avoiding that conversation with her. If that thing builds up, I don't care if you're going out to hang out with the boys, if you're going to go take her to the movies, if you're going to go out to eat and you're about to spend money on her, if you got flowers for her, and all of a sudden that thing erupts, she gonna be like Breaking Bad, Kung Fu chick. She coming through the door, kicking off the hinges, and you gonna be like, what is wrong with this crazy woman? That signal light in her car had been flashing for a long time, and we never looked inside of it to see what was the deal. I got this scripture, bro. I'm gonna give the scripture, and I want you to hear it, and let me know what you feeling about this. Romans chapter 7. This scripture talks about the fight. It talks about the fight. It talks about the fight between the spirit, the law of the flesh and the law of the spirit. And for those y'all out there, y'all can read a whole bunch into this and stuff like that. But I want to give you this little piece. Verse 7, 7, 7. What shall we say then? Is the is the law sin? God forbid. So in other words, let me just say, God forbid. Nay, I had not known sin but by the law, for I had not known lust except the law had said, "Thou shalt not covet." So this is that part. I want you to get that. All right. So now let me show you the other part. Now, verse 14. For we know that the law is spiritual, but I am carnal, sold under sin. For that which I do, I allow not. For what I would, that do I not. But what I hate, that do I. This thing is like, that thing's got to be like bubbling up inside of us because, like, Paul, what on earth is you talking about, man? Come on, speak in plain English. Let me go get another translation. That King James version ain't working for me. I need an NIV. I need an ESV. I need a please help me. You know, it's
All too
what
human, a
is.
slave to sin. I'm a,
Oh, you about to
as
break in? Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, as you spoke, and this is interesting. And you said it's a feeling of a feeling is when you
Mm.
describe the depression. Um, a feeling of the feeling, and then I really wanted to go in on the old you versus new you conversation that took place, because essentially scientifically it's the creation of a new neural pathway. You had dealt with something, use a certain kind of strategy to deal with something for so long that as you became what you call the new you, which is there's a new way of seeing these things. There's a new way of dealing with these things, which is actually to deal with it, as opposed to the old strategy, which is like let that thing just sit into the back, and we're gonna ride this thing out to, what is it? Ride it, the gas tank on E to
Ride,
the tire
ride until the
to the top
wheels
to
fall
the
off.
wheels fall off. So, but your new you is creating a new pathway of how I'm going to handle these things. Now you're open after you had the conversation with God. You were open to all of these different possibilities of how to deal with these things. Now you have the tools. Sometimes we get these tools and we don't use these tools. But I want to get back to the feeling of a feeling, because I had a thought this morning in regards to a feeling of feeling. Guys, it's all I think initially, essentially, because I want to bring it back, is that this procrastination, this laziness, the depression is our byproducts of something else.
Ah,
This is just it's the quote unquote, what people say, manifestation. It's manifesting of things that you were that needed that are happening. Like there's a reason as to why you're resisting change, or you're resisting getting up and doing the things that you could be doing. Sometimes it's something you shouldn't be doing. Like it's
it's
only
the
things.
fruit of
Yeah,
a root,
it's the fruit of the root. Yeah. So
not
I was
not the root of a
a
root.
feeling of a feeling, and I said, you know what, and it go kind of speaks into this verse that you brought up. I said feelings are like a human thing.
Yeah.
It's a human thing. Like these feelings, and the feelings come from experience, or the way that we see things. So we see things a certain kind of way, and it brings up, or we hear things, whatever it is, things happen, and we associate based upon our feelings. We associate these things. So they bring up the way that we look at it, and that's what the feeling is. It's a real humanistic viewpoint. We're humans. It's in us. There's no no not having this feeling. You can choose to validate it or not. You can choose to cover it up or not, but it's there. It's already there. Even if it just happened for a half a second, it happened. So you can choose to honor it or not. I would suggest that most people should honor and validate their feelings, because it's something in your body saying, "Hey, this is happening, and I feel a way about it, whatever it is." And this could be good, what you would consider good or what you would consider bad. But the thing is from a different aspect of, these are just things. Like it's neither good or bad. Like we know that all things work together for the good. So as long as you are in good spirits, essentially it's gonna work out. The purpose is gonna work itself out. But if you continue allowing your feelings to control whatever's happened next if you continue using these old strategies, because oftentimes most of our old strategies come from, when we're younger, and we just don't have the tools or the information in order to figure out what it is we need to do. Like, oh, as an adult, our adult mind, when your mother goes away or goes into the bathroom, be like, oh, she'll be back. But as a child, it's like, I don't know if she's this is abandonment. I don't know if they're coming back or not. Like, this is mom. So we start to associate that into the different feelings. But if you can just get to the point of just observing these things as, oh, this just happened. And there's an old Chinese proverb where the guy kept saying, they kept saying, oh, your horse died. Let me see if I could tell the story. So there was an old it was an old it was a, it's, an old, it's an old proverb, Asian proverb, where the guy is like, he's going across, and they say, oh, you were able to buy a donkey, man. That's great for you. And he says, oh, we'll see.
Mm.
And so he was using his son. His son was using the donkey to do the corn, to farm the corn or whatever. And the son falls off of the donkey and breaks his leg. And I'm like, oh, your son broke the leg, man. I'm sorry to hear that. And he's like, oh, we'll see.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden there was a war that broke out, but because his son's leg was broken, his son wasn't able to go to the war, where everybody ended up dying. And they was like, well, what? Your son didn't go to war. That's a great thing. And he's like, oh, we'll see. So it was like, it just kept on saying that as we go along, like, we'll see. These things just happened. We'll see what happens as we continue our journey throughout life. I said all that to say this is that these things are just happening, and the what is it? The feelings are simply the what we put onto it. You know what I mean? Like, it's how it's our viewpoint of it. Like, what is your viewpoint of it? Is it a positive viewpoint or is it a negative viewpoint? And really, it's neither. It just is. And I hope I got into it, brother. But I'd love to hear your explanation of the verse.
Man, when it comes down to that verse, it's simply put, it's just Paul is just saying the things that I would do, I don't do, and the things that I would do, I do. Uh, I believe that's many times that's where we are, you know. And I like how you were talking about procrastination. I like how you're talking about, laziness and depression, and we're talking about the fruit
Yeah,
of,
the fruit.
and I like to say of a root. And the only reason why I say that is because a tree has many roots, right? So maybe one root is plugged into some pollution, or it's drawing up some nasty ground. There's toxicity underneath the soil in this area, and that root is drawing in some of that toxicity, and you got a bad branch, and that bad branch is always giving you bad fruit, rotten fruit, always, you know because a tree by its fruit. You don't go to an orange tree looking for apples. Not anybody with any type of knowledge. If you know the difference between an apple and an orange, you don't go to an orange tree looking for an apple. Um, you don't go to a grapevine looking for watermelons. It's just how it is. But if you don't know the difference between a grapevine and a watermelon vine, then yeah, you may do it. But at that point in time, we're dealing with ignorance. But it's like what Paul was describing was the war between, allowing the body to do what the body wants to do, and, the mind to do what the mind wants to do. Because with the mind, we serve spiritually. We create beliefs within our mind, but on the other end, we also create doubts inside of our mind, right? And feelings can be simply branches that make either one of them justifiable, right? I feel like God is watching over me. Well, what does that mean? What does that mean? You know, because this is something totally different. Like, I feel like you love me, even though that doesn't make sense. Just like I feel like God is watching over me doesn't make sense. It's acceptable to say, I feel like you love me. Because, like you said, there's something that I saw, or, there's something that was done that I
Right.
related to that made me think that whatever it is that's happening in this atmosphere, the results of what I see, the results of what I'm touching, the results of what I smell, the results of my senses kicking up make me believe or make me doubt, either or. And so Paul is diving into this thing. He's like, there's a law of the spirit, there's a law of the flesh, And when he talks about the law of that word that was in between, it's like this word is simply there to give us understanding that we're either going left or right, we're either going high or low, we're either going through, or above or around or under. But that's it. It gives us clarity. And you mentioned that earlier. Clarity is so important. So then, what am I dealing with feelings? Feelings are very essential, more essential than I think I even believed prior to. There came a certain point in time, because I remember Daddy Grace, my mentor. I remember him saying, "Don't let your ears." Well, I was about to tell you something else, but that's not the right quote. The quote that he would say is, "Don't wear your feelings on your shoulders." And it's like, it took me time to understand what that meant. You don't want to be governed outwardly by your feelings. It does not mean that you shouldn't feel. Like, what is compassion? And where in the Bible did we truly learn how important compassion was? Well, we learned it in the four Gospels. Because before the four Gospels, you rarely even heard about compassion. Compassion was not listed in the Bible as it was in the four Gospels. Because in the four Gospels, all of a sudden, you heard Jesus had compassion, and he had compassion on them because of this, because of that. And it's like, compassion, that's the fruit of a feeling. How do you have compassion? Compassion is the results of somebody loving someone through their deficit, doing something for somebody when you believe they could have done better, or you believe they didn't know, or some other malady has fallen upon them, but you forgive them with mercy and love them anyway. Compassion is to move in that type of direction. And it's like, what's going on? Like, just stop it for a moment, because defining all of this just takes me so much deeper into what we're discussing, so much deeper into the tree, so much deeper into the roots. And here we go again. If there is some part of that root, some part of that growth structure, some part of that being that is toxic, that is polluted, the results are, ah, man, I'm depressed. Oh man, man, I got anxiety. I just don't know how to deal with it. Oh man, I'm just overwhelmed. Oh man, I can't breathe now. I can't breathe. My chest is tight. I got my chest got tight now. I'm frustrated. No, just don't talk to me anymore. Oh, I'm sad. I'm mad at you. You want to fight? Because I can't. I don't know how to deal with what's
Don't
going
even know
on
how
the
to deal
inside.
with it. Don't even know how to deal with it.
and all of these things just start to, the fruit begins to come out.
Yeah, yeah. I remember hearing Chris Voss say, "When you get angry, it makes you dumber." You know what I mean? And the
Mm.
thing is that and with this conversation, it came to me because we're speaking about overwhelm and this, that, and third. It's not like we don't understand how to get past it. You know what I mean? It's like
Woo!
it's not like you don't like it. We're not. It's not due to lack of intelligence. You know what I mean? It's not due to lack of intelligence, and for the most part, at the age that we are, and I would say anyone whose brain is fully developed, it's not through ignorance for the most part as well. Um, but it is because of these things that we refuse to face. The compassion thing struck a chord, and because compassion is when because I had this huge conversation with a cousin of mine this morning. Shouts out to Louis who allows me to run my thought process by him. We were kind of speaking about the forgiveness aspect of it, and I'm just wondering, like, how much of this avoidance is due because of lack of forgiveness or compassion for ourselves. Like how much of this is manifesting because we're not doing it, this lack of compassion. And I always say you can't give it if you don't have it to give. And you don't have it to give, and often if you're not giving it to yourself, it's hard for you to give it to other people, right? So it's like I'm wondering, like a lot of these things and these conversations that we're having, these the fruit that we're bearing when we're talking about procrastination, laziness, and the like and depression and the like, is like how much of it comes from our lack of our compassion or lack thereof, and then with the compassion and lack thereof, it's like the forgiveness, right? Like because of for whatever reason. And I think that's an awesome thing for us to end on because we're about at an hour. But
Boom! Y'all thought we was gonna go
yeah,
for another hour,
I
but
think
Mike just
yeah. I think
called it
no,
off.
no, no, but I think it's a lot to chew on for me personally. That's what I'm
Yeah.
gonna take from this conversation because as I'm thinking about myself and when I'm going through a lot of these things, this push, 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 drive, 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 busy, 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 avoidance, 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 resistance, resistance, procrastination, procrastination. These some of the most important conversations that are waking me up at 1 o'clock in the morning is because of things that I'm handling in regards to compassion and or forgiveness, the lack thereof. All right. This is
Love it,
this,
y'all.
this is
Listen.
dope. This is super dope, man. I don't know about you. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling very enlightened by this conversation. I'm feeling. I am enlightened by this conversation. I'm gaining a lot of clarity on this conversation, a lot of vision. Last thing is I heard someone speak recently, because I know you, brother. You said you want to live to you like 140, right? That was the
31.
it's 31. Okay, and
131. Yes, sir.
and I heard a brother say, it was I guess it was the minister who actually said it was that a person doesn't like you just start living life at 70. He said
Mm,
that's when you
I
really
love that.
he said that's when you really start to understand life. So he started speaking about all the people in the Bible and how long their lives were, from Methuselah, and then he brought down, and it was really it was a conversation, or he was actually giving a lecture in regards to food and what it was, things that we were eating. I tell you, I'm eating a lot better. So he was saying a lot of these reasons why our life is cut short was because, see how I rolled it all the way back, is because of
I see that.
how our food is because of the foods that we're eating, and now along with a lot of environmental a lot of environmental stressors that we have going on that we have no control over. However, we do have control of what we put in our body. But it's like we have reached this age of I'm 41, right? And it's like,
Gosh, man, you old.
I am
Gosh.
not,
You look
I
good though.
am.
You look good for being as old as you are. I mean,
Thank
it
you.
is what it is. I mean, you still wear your hat to the side too. So I know you
Yeah,
ain't
only
trying to
to the
keep up with the
only
young people. It's
only
all right. Hold on, let
to
me I'm
only to the
supporting you.
only to the left side. But it's like a lot of these things that we're and this is like these are principles to living a well just a well-rounded life. If we start to as we start to apply these things, and I know some people are like, oh, it took me this long to learn it. I'm just like, well, if these people who are a lot wiser than me are saying that you don't really start understanding life or really get understand it till you hit
Hmm.
70. Like we got 30 more years to go of where we can really get into it at the same time, eat better. That way you'll make it there with me, and we could all make it to, those longer things of life. That's how I'm ending it. What you got? What's your final words, brother?
I love it, man. I love it. Y'all check us out. Keep checking us out. Like, comment, share. Please share, you know, and we'll see you when we see you.
Peace, y'all. Love you.